All right, welcome to Ignis podcast. Today we have Isaac and Dave Hill. Yeah, he was in the army and stuff, and we met him through Marge's Donuts. Yeah, with that, we'll go ahead and start. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. I'm David Hill. I did 29 years in the Michigan Guard. I was what's called dual status, so I had a civilian job working for the DoD, and I had to be in the Guard to have that job. I did readiness inspections is what I ended up doing toward the end there, traveling around the state, making sure that the units were ready to deploy and stuff. So, and retired as a E8 Master Sergeant.
Okay, and if you want to talk about what were you in before that, or if you want to tell us the whole story.
It's a good story.
I like that
I still
story.
can't believe that. Like from cook to sergeant major.
Yeah, I mainly say that I was in from 90 to 2020. But I actually went in 1983. Um, I was dissatisfied with everything. Dissatisfied with school. I was in Detroit Public Schools, and I just wasn't happy, and so I quit my senior year and joined the Army. What the recruiter didn't tell me is that when you don't have a high school diploma, or at least back then, I don't know how it is now, but you're given choices: cook, artillery, infantry, and he says, if you don't like, you can become a cook, and if you don't like it, we'll change your MOS.
That's the lie.
Yeah. Yeah. So I did about a year before I decided I didn't like it, and they were like, "You're stuck. You're going to be a cook." And I so I decided I wasn't going to be a cook, and I left. And after two AWOLs, they put me out Chapter 5 for the good of the Army, and I immediately tried to get back in. Um, because at that point I was willing to go into the infantry or whatever. I just wanted to be back in the Army, and they weren't having it. So probably 7 years after I got out, they made me jump through hoops, but I got into the Guard, and and doing electronics communication stuff. So
UO.
what's that?
UO.
I did toward the on my last deployment. They had sent me to electronic warfare school, but it was before there was actually an MOS,
Right.
so it was an additional skill identifier. So it was a 6-week course at the fire center down in at Fort Sill.
So but that was working the Dukes and stuff like that, wasn't it?
That was working on all the different electronic warfare stuff, the small stuff that the EOD guys wore, the bigger stuff that was in the vehicles.
Well, because they had the backpack. They were just coming out with the backpack one when I was leaving. So I remember there's an infantry platoon that carried one, whatever, and I remember thinking, God, it would suck to be that infantry guy because his pack was not light.
Yeah,
Like on top
yeah,
of all your other
exactly.
stuff, you're carrying this giant that, and the Duke would. I could hear it ringing inside my head as we're driving. It's just sending out this like giant broadspan radio
Yep,
signal, jamming everything. And it's like, well,
yep,
putting that in a backpack, wearing it, it's like brain cancer. It's like,
yeah, yeah,
your MOS is now, you know, 69 brain dead, like a future vegetable patient. Like,
So you were out for 7 years before you got back into the Guard?
yeah. I kept trying to get back in. I had actually gone as far as to go to a recruiter and say, "Hey, I want to join the Army," and he said, "Well, sure." So I went through everything, redid the ASVAB and all this stuff, and I wasn't trying to do anything fancy.
Right.
I was like, yeah, I'll go infantry. And before I went for my physical and stuff, we'd done all the work and it was all happening. And then I decided, maybe I should come clean,
Yeah.
with the fact that I was in already, and instead of them accepting me and then putting me in jail for lying,
Yeah.
and he was pissed off and threw me out of his office, and so
Wow. So that happened once too? Okay.
yeah, so that I kept trying, and my brother was in the early '90s, and actually he got out in '91, and they when he went and did he had to do his time in the reserve component when he got out, and the recruiter goes, "Well, how about you?" I'm like, "Yeah, you guys don't want me." And he's like, "Why?" And I told him the story, and he says, "We'll take you."
Oh, okay. That's
And
cool.
Yeah, he goes, "We got to do some waivers, but we'll take you." And he had me do the ASVAB again, and then pretty much said, "Hey, so what do you want to do? You tell us. You qualify for most things that we've got. So um, stuck me in a evac hospital, doing medical equipment repair stuff. But then right before I was heading off to Aurora, Colorado to go to the school, which was over a year long, the unit deactivated.
No.
So
Unity?
the
Unit.
unit,
Oh,
the
yeah,
evac
yeah.
hospital.
Yep.
Yeah, they got rid of the evac hospitals, and then they I can't remember what they became, but that unit over there was transitioned into a um, what they called a CASH, combat surgical hospital,
Mm.
and they probably had the MOS to send me to school. They probably had the slots.
Well, didn't your son?
They didn't know.
Your son became medical
Biomedical.
repair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you were saying that. So did that inspire him to do that?
No, I inspired him
Well,
to
that's
do
what
it.
I mean. Like, but
Yeah.
you doing that, like,
I was like, I knew work smarter, not harder.
right? Yeah.
And that's one of those
point.
that's one of those jobs where there's always going to be medical equipment,
Yeah.
and working in a house. He didn't want to do it until I said, "Man, you'd be working in a hospital and there's all those hot nurses."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Well, good point." Yeah, so he went in and did that, and now he's on a regular basis. Hey, I'm glad the one time I listened to you with the
Yeah.
Army stuff, so
So did you get that slot?
no, they were having none of it. I said, "You broke my contract," and they said, "Okay, we'll let you out if you want out." And I was like, "Well, no, that's not what I want. I fought to
Right.
get back in."
Right.
And then a guy that um, he's a good friend still today. I didn't even know who he was at the time, but he was the motor sergeant for the hospital, and he gave me a call one day and said, "Hey, so did they do anything for you?" Because he heard me when we went to drill, and they heard me acting like an asshole sitting there,
Right. Right.
telling everybody what I thought and everything. Because hey, you just broke my contract.
Right.
And he says, "Hey, I got some friends over in Ypsilanti at the signal company over there, the signal battalion over there.
Right.
And if you still want to do electronics, go on over there, tell them I sent you, and let them tell you what they've got available." And so the guy didn't even, he didn't even know me, and an E7 taking care of some young private, and
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, to this day, I tell people that's the kind of leader you want to be.
Yeah.
Is that guy that 30 something years later, a soldier that wasn't even one of your soldiers
Right.
looks at you and says, "He is what I want to be as a leader."
Yeah.
Taking care of guys.
So
So.
you've talked about me a couple times that were soldiers calling you up even after you got out,
Mhm.
just because they knew that you'd actually helped with a lot of the stuff that they're going through and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, because they would call and say, "Hey, what do you think I should do?" And I'd be like, "Well, I think you should do this, this, or this," and don't tell them I told you to do it. This is your thing,
Right.
So
Right.
you go and do that, if you got some crusty ass E8 that's telling you to do it, no, you don't. That's not what you tell your boss. You tell your boss you own
Right.
it.
Right.
This is mine,
Right.
and because you had the gumption to call somebody and say, "Hey, what do I do?
Yeah.
Can you help me?" So, and that's two-thirds the battle right there. If you're, yeah, if you're willing to reach out and ask for help, if you're willing to identify that you don't know,
Right.
and then reach out to somebody who's been around a little longer who might know, well, then you're on the path to success.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. After you'd given up, finally the opportunity came around and kind of souped you back in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's um I didn't realize it at the time. I wasn't saved. I wasn't I wasn't religious or spiritual or anything. I wasn't brought up going to church, and but I look at it now and I say, I could sit back and look at it and say, yeah, that was God steering me where I needed to go.
Life. Very good.
Looking at
Well,
me saying, you might be a dumbass, but got a plan for you later. So go on over there and do what you got to do. And, so.
I think that was an opportunity to redemption too, like kind of clearing your record,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
that's quite amazing.
Yeah, it was always a decent thing that my last deployment, I was a liaison between the Air Force base I was on and the rocket battalion, or the rocket battery that was there, a HIMARS battery, um, in Jordan, and I ended up toward the end of that, ended up having to give two Article 15s for these young soldiers that were drinking, and which was a jacked up situation anyways, because, well, you know the the Air Force MWR has a bar.
Yeah. They
They're
drink
allowed
with
they're
the.
allowed to drink.
Right.
And my thought process was, no. General Order 1 says no. You're not drinking here.
Yeah.
You guys are on call to,
Right.
they could, the phone could ring, and you guys are off to Syria.
Yeah.
And no, you're not drinking. This is considered a combat zone, even though it wasn't really a combat zone. No, you're not drinking. And, so talking to them, and they were both amazing soldiers. Um, there was underlying issues that caused what happened, but, I sat down with each of them and said, look, don't,
Don't let this dissuade you.
don't let this isn't destroying your career now. And I tell them the story about this this dumb 18-year-old or 17-year-old that quit school, joined the army, became a cook. A year later he was a civilian again, and went back in, and now he's a master sergeant. He's done well for himself despite the obstacles, and bad decisions make great stories. You know,
Yeah.
that's what I always tell everybody, you know, bad decisions make great stories. And now that you've made these bad decisions, own them and, you know, and don't let it affect your career. Um, this is just you know, blink of an eye in time, you know, and you know, and one of these days you're going to be sitting where I'm sitting, telling some young soldier that stepped on it, look, you know, this isn't the end of your career.
No.
You know, it's not over. You're going to take this like a man, and you're gonna suck it up. You're going to learn from it. And you're going to drive on. You know, so it's you know, and you know the hindsight thing. It seems like everything I've done has been guided that way with you know, it wasn't me. You know, it wasn't me. It was the Lord pushing me in a direction, you know, giving me those choices. And I guess it was partly me because I made the decisions to do what I needed to do. But um, yeah, it's those doors were opened up for me. You know, so there was a bigger plan, I guess. So
Do you still talk to any of those soldiers that you talked to, the one that you're talking to recently, or?
they those kids with the Article 15s, no,
Okay.
I wasn't really friends with them to
Okay.
begin with.
Yeah.
You know, they were both young E5s. One of them,
Did they get a reduction in rank or no?
yeah, both of them did.
That's
One of them was Tennessee Guard, and she, in the way it went down, she was the um, electronics person for the rocket launchers. You know, so she was and she was really good at what she did. And so all the support people technically worked for me, but they were attached out to the different batteries. You know, so well they not in the battalion, not all of them in the battalion, but the ones in Jordan where we were at, they worked for me. Um, as their senior rater and stuff, and they that way you know the rocket jockeys weren't I won't say abusing them, but you know they're not combat arms, they're support.
Right.
So you know support people tend to take a back seat to combat arms people in a combat arms unit, and you know, and that was where the battalion commander had the foresight to say, "Hey, nope, all the support people work for Hill," and you know, so
Well, it's a weird dynamic with that. You know, like so I was a medic. I was a combat medic, whatever, but I was not I was not an engineer. And the difference, I was in headquarters platoon, and so the difference in the pathways you take through the military as combat arms versus support, whatever, they're it's different.
yeah,
And it makes a lot of sense putting them in a different in a
Mhm.
different battalion like that. Like we were supposed to be typically in most units, all the medics are in the battalion
yep,
headquarters company.
Yeah.
And one I think the biggest mistakes that my unit made is they did not have that. They were individually slotted to each unit with each company in the battalion ever. So each company had medics ingrained in it, which was what you do typically in combat arms when you
So you guys were engineers, right?
pretty much.
Yeah, so they were double A entities that
Yeah.
you deploy without a battalion headquarters, so you had your own organic.
Yes.
Um,
We had a battalion headquarters though, and
Yeah.
so they did not, but that created a lot of conflict
Yep.
because usually your senior medic in your battalion would detach you and attach you to a platoon whenever you were not you'd be embedded in that platoon for a set amount of time, whatever, but they could rotate you out. For me, I did more missions than anyone else in probably my battalion. Because I got attached to the platoon, whatever, and then there was no there was no one to relieve me because we were just ingrained in the company, and it wasn't like I had a senior medic in the battalion to sit there like you, hey, this dude's been sitting here on the same vehicle in the same company forever. like give him a break, detach him, whatever, and put another person in there so that way you can rotate fresh people in, give them a fresh set of eyes. Because a lot of times in support unit, you're going quite a bit. I mean, they don't realize it, like, yeah, you're not on mission, stuff like that, but your job is still essential. And in order for them to go out on mission, you still need to have, your radios need to be checked every day. You're constantly doing everything with signal and stuff like that. The vehicles, the mechanics need to go constantly.
Yep.
So I mean that's a lot of foresight actually. That's really cool.
Yeah, my the two medics that I had there working for me, they great guys. Um, they they fell under the Navy or the Air Force dock because they were working out of the I don't know what they call it, a TMC in the Air Force or not, but they fell in, they fell under the PA or the docks over there,
Right.
and our RPAs that were in the UAE, they didn't like not having that control over them. And I was that guy that was like, well, I don't care what you like. I really could care less what you like. If your butt hurt, well then that's sad.
Right.
That's sad. Maybe you should sit down with the chaplain or something. And because I was that guy. I didn't care.
Right.
But the medics had to do their annual research and all that stuff, and I set it up so that they would do it with the Air Force guys. They would go through and do everything, and that Air Force captain would not. I don't know. I guess it's captain in Air Force 03.
Yeah.
He would.
I don't know.
He supervised everything, and made sure they went through all the tables properly and did all the stuff they had to do.
Yeah.
And and then our guy back in UAE was like, no, they have to come back here and do it. Like, no, they ain't got to do
She would
shit.
fly all the way across the Middle East to.
Well, what it amounted to was where we were, and this is the the games that they play. Where we were in Jordan was a combat zone, so they earned a combat patch for it.
Right,
You
get the
all that stuff. UAE wasn't, so they didn't get that stuff, and they wanted to rotate them in.
They wanted butthurt.
They wanted to rotate the other guys in so that they could get their
identifiers, whatever. Like
yeah,
that.
and and I was like, and I got
It
that.
makes sense to a degree, but at the same time, it's like when you have people that are already
If you-
trained in that position.
Yeah, if you want to do that, well, then send them over.
Yeah.
They spend a week there because if you do 24 hours boots on ground, you get it.
Right.
You're there.
You're there. Like,
So
if they're squared away and they can rotate out and they function organically within the unit, and it's not an issue.
Yeah.
But if you just get two random new guys,
and they weren't going to learn anything new going back to the UAE,
no,
as opposed to staying there in Jordan. Actually, they probably I'm a big fan of continuity. So you've got two platoons in a battery that and they've got their electronics person and their mechanics and stuff. Well, the mechanics were kind of for the whole battery, but
right.
those guys liked having their medic being the same guy.
Yeah.
The medic is more than that guy that make sure you get your flu shot and stuff, when you're sitting there on a base. He's that guy that they feel comfortable with, and they're having a problem, they can talk to that guy. It's
my Husky driver I used to, because Husky is a one-man vehicle, so there's radio silence the whole time. They're on route for 12 to 18 hours, whatever, a day. The Husky's by himself, with no one else to talk to. And so, like, I would literally stay up after we got commissioned, and I would go to breakfast with the guy every day and make sure I talked to him, just because of the fact that he literally would sit waiting to die in the one-man suicide machine with no one else to talk. I mean, he had to be radio silent. You can't sit there and talk to everyone over the radio and stuff like that. Like, And so like it was like I would lose sleep just to make sure that I could sit there and talk to that guy for hours because like he was complaining. He's like, I just want to talk. Like, and it's like, yeah, I get it, dude. Like everyone else gets back from mission. They want to go back to their bunks and stuff like that. They
Yeah.
want to shut up, leave me alone. I've been sitting here talking to you guys forever. Like, and he's like, I need socialization. Like I've been sitting here staring at a picture of Lenny on my roof, whatever. And like, that's like the only starting to help some of the psychiatric issues. Like, no, yeah.
So, you were in for a long time. You go to Hillside Church too, right?
Bible
I
study.
Yeah, I just go over there for their men's Bible study on Tuesday mornings.
Okay.
I I'm not a I'm not a fan whatsoever of organized religion. I don't consider myself Baptist or Christian Reform or Catholic or anything like that, because
Hopefully not Methodist.
yeah, no, I look at it and and I say that I'm a Christian, and it's so I I'm not sure exactly what the Reformed Church believes in and what they don't believe and stuff like that. But I'm gonna guess that they're they're definitely not pre-trib rapture,
Mm.
stuff like that,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
um, and I am, and so it's um it's um it's different. They're great guys, and and I love the group. I sit there and we're finishing up um,
Experiencing God.
experiencing God, and I think we've got one more week of it, and then we're doing. Uh, I think we're going into um, First and Second John. I think so. I'm going to go through and do that, which I'm kind of excited about. Because that's what I wanted, a Bible study.
Yeah.
And experiencing God is a great study. Um, but
It's not studying.
it's not Bible study,
Right. Yeah.
per se.
Yeah. That's one of
Yeah.
those things I think that the church gets wrong a lot of times with the Bible study. You pick a book that's not the Bible to study.
Yeah.
And it's
And
like,
and it's great. It's great. That program is awesome.
yeah.
Because it tries to help you identify when God is talking to you, and how do you know God's talking to you? How do you know
How do you test the
you're
spirits?
how do you know you're being guided in a direction? Are you doing what the Spirit wants you to do? One of the stories is guy gets up in the morning, and him and his wife, they were going to go to the grocery store, but they ended up going to a different grocery store. Doesn't go there. Why'd they go to the different grocery store as opposed to the one that they normally go to? Well, he sees this guy that's obviously struggling. He's just standing there looking at this can, and the guy was having a hard time, and he walks up and says, "Hey, I can't help but notice, you seem like you're a little distraught. Is there anything I can do to help?" And the guy's like, going through a divorce, and this is all new to me. I don't know anything about taking care of a house. And I worked, the wife handled that stuff, and and the guy was like, "Well, you mind if I pray with you?" And he says, "Yeah, yeah, no, that's fine." And the guy wasn't a member of any church or anything, and prayed with them, and they kept in touch, and he was saved. And the moral of the story was, if he would have fought that urge to go to the different grocery store, that wouldn't have happened. you know why did he go to that different grocery store? Well, because that's where God wanted him to go. That's where he was needed. So
Yeah.
that type of stuff is what experiencing God is. The that type of thing, and but the Bible study, actually learning the Bible, is it's I've always struggled with in the past. I've had the time to read the Bible. Just I would start doing it and it just didn't click, you know, because I would start at page one and just start
Yeah.
reading. That's how you
Well, you
read
get
it.
through all the genealogies.
That's how you read a book, and some of it's kind of dry, and
Very dry.
but what I've learned since then is that like we're doing Revelation, um, another Bible study that I go to, and it's you can't just say I'm going to do Revelation now, because while you're doing Revelation, you're doing Daniel,
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
doing Isaiah, and you're
Yeah.
doing
Yeah. No, you shouldn't just be doing one of those.
no,
books
it
and
all
say it's
everything
all
ties
together.
together.
It's almost the whole Bible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
You sit
I've-
there and
Yeah, we've talked about this.
yeah,
Like,
it's great because you sit there and you say, oh, well that makes sense.
yeah.
That makes a lot more sense than it did, because now that you put that with it, and and in the past I had no idea what commentary was,
Mhm.
so I'd read something and I don't know what that means, but okay, I'll go to the next chapter, and just keep on reading, as
Yeah.
opposed to digging into it and looking at what the theologians have to say, and and different interpretations of it and stuff like that, and it's
That's why I like the text Bible that Abby's dad gave us. It comes with an app, and so it's like the book itself. I mean, the Bible itself. It's just it's its own interpretation, whatever. But you can look up in the app, and it'll tell you the individual interpretations of the Hebrew, and then everything that goes into that,
Mhm.
different interpretations people have taken on it. So
yep,
you can essentially read the Bible, but also get what people are saying. What people have disagreed on, or what people believe about that scripture at any given time, which
Right.
is
yeah,
something that I
That's-
struggled with immensely when I first started coming back to Christ and actually trying to read the Bible again. It was like, well, what like I've heard it before too, like, well, this is I can't believe in the Bible because it's been misinterpreted through 2,000 years and everything else like that, whatever. How can it be true, whatever? And how it's
Yeah.
like, well, historicity of it, and then going through the actual interpretations that people have written about it over those 2,000 years and how it hasn't changed,
right,
and then the Dead Sea, the Dead Sea
Yeah.
Scrolls, which has allowed us to, further
Yeah.
interpret it, and throwing some of the verses out that got added in there by the Catholic Church.
yeah, I won't even get into it.
the
It's,
whole the whole parable about the woman and the adulterous woman and when they were going to stone her, like that was not in the Bible at all. That was something the Catholic Church decided to add in like 300 BC.
yeah, they've
Or
got their
300, yeah, 380.
and my first dabbling into religion was the early 90s, when I met my wife.
Mhm.
I was going through a divorce at the time when I met her, and the and once we decided we were getting married, well, she was Catholic. She was born and raised Catholic. So we're going to get married in the Catholic Church. Well, her
Get
church,
baptized.
yeah, her church was like, well, he's not Catholic, which is just ridiculous in my mindset.
Yeah,
It's
it is
just,
to me too.
yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's so I had to go through the um I had to go through RCIA classes, to become Catholic and all that stuff, and then my first marriage had to be annulled, and and I never got that because, well, my first marriage, we got married in the Grosse Pointe courthouse.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it wasn't a religious ceremony, it was a civil ceremony.
Right.
Neither one of us, had any, religious background at all. So, why am I having to annul this? You know, it was never in the eyes of the Lord as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
We didn't do it in the church or anything.
Right. Yeah.
We weren't practicing, we weren't, but I jumped through all the hoops and did what they wanted me to do because, well,
Well, you're a good Catholic now. Like,
yeah, I'm a
you
good
have to-
Catholic. They make money off of all this stuff.
Yeah, they do.
And so um yeah,
I know Catholics that have not gotten divorced because it would have cost them too much.
yeah.
Like
Well,
they're separated but not divorced because it cost them too much to actually
Yeah,
get divorced
and-
in the church.
and I can't, the entire time that I was Catholic, which was about probably I'd say maybe 20 years, maybe. I don't even know if it was that long because I wasn't practicing toward the end, and I just, I didn't like the church at that point.
Mhm.
And I lost my train of thought. I forgot where I was. Got that CRS thing going,
Like,
huh?
just because I've heard this in tradition, I think you were talking about how much you've actually read scripture.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that was it.
I've heard your testimony before.
The the Catholic Church doesn't, they don't necessarily want you digging through the Bible.
No, they don't.
You don't learn the Bible. You get in a Catholic Mass, you get an Old Testament reading, a New Testament reading, and then a gospel reading.
Mhm.
And then you get the priest's opinion on it. And
The Pope's opinion on it.
yeah. And whereas when I go to Res Life, and it's you sit there and you're not getting old, new, and gospel. You're getting, as he's talking and telling his story, you're getting all sorts of stuff mixed in there. You're getting different verses. You're getting, different places, and it teaches you that it's not. Okay, so you got John right here, and then you got Matthew over here, and you got, all of it
meshes together.
meshes together. It's one big story
Mhm.
told by different people,
Mhm.
and it makes it, in a way, it makes it harder to understand, but in a way, it makes it a lot easier to understand because
It makes it easier to believe for me.
without a doubt. I tell people all the time, there's in 2016, I got baptized in the Jordan River, and when I was in Jordan.
Oh, really?
And yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Do you have pictures of that? Maybe we could put that for the.
I
That'd
do.
be a
Yeah,
good one.
I'll dig through and find
Okay.
some pictures
That'd
of
be
it.
great.
Are you still
Yeah.
bald and sexy?
Oh yeah,
Balder,
balder, because I was actually clean shaven back then, but again, I forgot what I was talking about. I got that CRS thing going.
That's okay. I forgot too. So it's not
Yeah.
just you.
About 2000, then you're
Oh, so so that was going to Jordan was an amazing thing because I cracked jokes that I was the battalion tour guide, because like I was talking about with the combat patches,
right.
the battalion commander would send all the officers over,
Yep. They got to get
so they would rotate in so
Yeah.
that they can get their patch. You
Yeah.
got all these young kids, and
Well, and then that's how they get their promotions and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're
So
in a
required to
combat
get a certain
zone,
amount of
and they've
time,
got
yeah.
because nowadays, if you don't have that that patch on, people are like, "What? You never deployed?"
Yeah.
And you get looked at cross-eyed, and so he would send those guys over, and he would call up and say, "Hey, Dave, okay, so I'm sending a couple lieutenants over and one of the majors, and hey, why don't you get a hold of them and see what kind of trips they want to do?"
Yeah.
So I would take them over to, they'd show up and we'd do like a day trip where we would go to Mount Nebo, where Moses sat there on the top of the mountain and looked out and could see the promised land. Never to go there, but he could see the promised land,
Right.
and that's where he died, on Mount Nebo, supposedly. And, then we went down to Bethany beyond the Jordan, which is where St. John's Church was. Where he was baptizing,
Yeah.
where Jesus was baptized,
Yeah.
and then you walk a little further and you're in the actual Jordan River, because the river isn't what it used to be.
Yeah.
It's
meanders.
it's a small little muddy,
Oh yeah.
the
the
whole river right there where I was baptized is probably 30 feet across.
Oh wow, yeah.
And they've got like the pool buoys right down the middle, because if you go on the other side of the buoys, you're in Israel. So they don't want you crossing the buoys. And it was the same. The spot was the people on the Israeli side were coming over and getting baptized, and the people on the Jordan side were, it was more of a structured thing on the Israeli side.
Sure.
But it it was decent. So we'd go over and see that, and as you'd go through, they'd have tour guides that would tell you the history of everything, and then we went over and floated in the Dead Sea and stuff like that. And I went to Petra 4 times, seeing, and I made a point of every time I went, I'd see a lot of the same stuff, because you got to take the same mile-long trail to get in there, and you're walking past this stuff, but now you're, instead of going this direction over here, you go this direction over here, and to see the different things. And I went there 4 times and spent, long days there.
Yeah.
And I don't think I saw half of what there was to see.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's just amazing, and it's constantly growing, because it's an active archaeological site.
Right.
It's like not long ago they found they found bodies in the tombs underneath the I want to say the bank, but it's not the bank. It's the building where Indiana Jones, where the Indiana Jones thing, where when he was in Petra, where you could see it. Not the monastery, the
Yes. That
Yeah.
place.
CRS sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I got to see all that stuff. Well, my one guy that they didn't have rotating in was our chaplain, which I always thought was ridiculous. The chaplain is if he's a good chaplain, he's a linchpin.
Yeah.
He's that guy that knows all the Joes, and he's talking to them and he's getting the pulse. But he also, the only person he answers to in the battalion is the battalion commander. That's it. It's he's the battery commanders can't, pop a grape with this guy. They can't, he answers to one person. And if you've got a good battalion commander and a good chaplain, well, that battalion commander is getting the pulse of what's going on in his organization. And so I wanted him to come over there, because one of the guys was like, hey, it'd be cool if, the chaplain came over and we did baptisms. And so I started beating that drum, got to get him over here. We got baptisms that need to be done. And
You could have done it too.
I could have, but
Yeah.
but the chaplain was my friend, and I wanted him to come over there. I wanted to hang out with him, and so he came over and he did the, he did the. I've got all sorts of pictures of it, but it's great because they were clicking the pictures. Where I'm sitting there and holding my nose, and he's, so there's pictures where he's sitting there and he's talking, and then I'm going down, and then I'm underwater, and the big joke is he held me under a little bit longer. He had to chase that crap out of me, so
be cleaned a little bit more.
yeah. And but yeah, it was all the things that I saw over there. I didn't realize it at the time, but when I got home, and I'm going to church and they're talking about this place or that place, and I'm like, I've been there. I've been to where Abraham was born. Before he went, west, toward Jordan and all that, and over that way. And I've been to,
Babylon.
Yeah, well, I never made it to Babylon.
Oh, you did?
No, I would have loved to.
Right, yeah.
I would have loved to. There's so many, those countries, everybody, they're so scary. Nobody wants to go to these places because they're scary. Well, the people over there tend to be amazing people. It's if you walk up to somebody, if you knock on somebody's door in Iraq, they're inviting you in, and they're making tea, and they're going to give you sweets, they're going to give you whatever they've got, because you show up at their house, you are a guest. Whether they like you or not, you are a guest, and they treat you as such. And they I would love to spend time wandering around. The stuff that ISIS did in Syria, it's like heartbreaking, because I'm a history guy. I love the old history, the ancient history and stuff like that. And they went in and said, well, if it's not Muslim, we're destroying it.
Yeah.
Same thing in Iran. They destroyed the Buddhas, whatever.
Yeah. And the stuff that they destroyed was that country's history.
Yeah.
It's not, let me rephrase. It's the world's history.
Yeah.
Because that whole area over there is the crossroads of civilization.
Yeah.
When you look at it, you got the Silk Road where they came up from Egypt through Jordan. They could veer over and go into Israel, or they could keep going up toward Damascus or Babylon, whatever. But that was the center of everything. When I was there, it was Greek ruins and Byzantine ruins and Roman ruins and Nebidian, or whatever, however you say it, at Petra, all the different civilizations that came up, were there. They all passed through there, and to destroy that stuff like that is just heartbreaking. It's stuff that I've always said I would go back to Jordan in a heartbeat. It's a little more dangerous over there right now, with everything happening over in Israel.
Deeper.
Yeah, it's but it's the Christian history is just amazing. There's a place in Jordan called Madaba, and it's as they're going, and the way it is in the Middle East, they civilization, or a city crumbles and they build on top of it. So you've got all this space, but everything's layered on top of the same places. And so as they're doing excavations over there and stuff, they're finding all of these mosaics, and it's amazing when you look at it, because it's Bible stories.
Yeah.
It's the Bible stories and stuff. And and some of it is like, some of it's like, there's a, there's a scene, where they're crossing the Dead Sea or something like that in boats and everything. And it was, and you could tell that they didn't like the picture. So they took out the middle section of the picture where the women were in it with no shirts on. And they got rid of that and they just filled it in with something different.
Oh.
And I guess I get it. They didn't destroy it. They just got rid of that aspect of it that they didn't want to see. But when you look at it and say, wow, it's,
Like the Vatican's drawers full of penises.
yeah,
They just
yeah, I sit there and, maybe I'm too nice about it, but when I sit there and I hear people saying, "Oh, Islam is a religion of evil and destruction and this and that," and yeah, maybe it is, but they learn from us. I mean, the Crusades were a horrible thing. If you didn't, if you were anything but Catholic, you were put on a pike. You either conform to what we have to say or we're going to kill you and your entire family. And we're we're a very hypocritical society. We tend to only remember what is convenient to remember. People don't want to talk about, they want to talk about how bad Muslims are.
going through Joshua and going through what he did when he was conquering the promised land, murdering women or killing women and children was not against God's plan.
Yeah.
There was.
It
happens on both sides.
It happens on both sides.
Yeah.
And I, and I'm not, I'm a far cry from being a Muslim, but, leave
Yeah, I don't think
them alone,
Yeah.
let them do their thing if we're, because they get treated like shit. And that's part of where they are right now. They've been treated bad, throughout history, just like, Christians have been treated bad and,
Yeah. It's a never ending
It's a
story.
never-ending
it's,
story,
I mean,
persecution is
we
universal.
are a horrible, horrible, horrible stain on this
Yeah.
world, where I'm right and you're wrong.
Yeah.
It's black and white, and it's not black and white. It's where, if you pay attention to what you're reading, we're taught to love everybody. I could care less what you do. I'm going to love you. I might not like you very much, but, it's,
Love your enemies.
yeah, you have to sit back and, whether you like somebody or not, you know, if they fall on the curb and hit their head on the ground,
Are you going to be the good Samaritan?
are you gonna be, one of God's children and run over there and say, "Hey, are you okay?" and help that person, or are you gonna say, "Dirty ass Muslim," whatever, No, that's not what we're taught. We're not taught to hate people. It's like, my son is a bleeding heart, liberal that, knows everything and with all this stuff, yeah, it's getting close.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
we
it's getting
should
close.
probably get
Yeah.
close now.
But
Talk about your son at least.
he,
Yeah.
the whole transgender thing.
Oh yeah.
They're coming to get us. They're going to put us in camps. Well, there's something to that. If you're different, they have put you in camps throughout history. I don't think that's going to happen. You know,
That's what they've been doing to Christians,
Yeah.
essentially putting us in
Yeah.
re-education camps and
it's
stuff.
it's everybody, you know,
Yeah.
and I tell them, look, when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, I had friends that were gay, and I could care less. They're still my friends. I love those guys, you know, and all they wanted to do is live their lives. They weren't pushing it on everybody. They weren't demanding that you accept my, you know,
Yeah.
my way of life. You know, that's just the way it was.
Mhm.
You know, and now it's being pushed on you. So yeah, the government is creating hate and discontent and distrust, which is what they're doing.
Mhm.
They're all about hate, discontent, mistrust, and so. But I digress.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen in the future. But yeah, I guess we can go ahead and close in a prayer. I guess. Do you want to pray us out, Dave?
You know what? I'm not great at that.
You don't have to be good at it. You can say thank you, Jesus, amen,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
want.
It's okay. Lord, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Thank you for your fellowship. Thank you for the cross. Keep a hedge of protection around those that are traveling this week. Keep them safe. Um, um, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you for coming on our podcast.
Yeah, no,
Good
thank you
talking
for
to you.
having me.
Yeah.